want to just transition into this about making hard choices when there's a cost. And I know because I've read some of your story, Madeline, and I think, I think we need to talk about this because for our viewers, this is a question that comes up. Like, when do you make hard choices? How do I make hard choices when there's a cost? And I think your life really exemplifies that. So
Yes.
is it hard being a Christian in Hollywood?
Oh, yes. It is.
Okay.
It is very hard to be a Christian in Hollywood. And in the sense of like, well, just like you said, choices. My choices have been not normal to the people in Hollywood, their perspective of me. Through my career, I've made a few really big milestone ones that would have made me go a lot further, a lot faster, and just been a lot more successful. But I purposed in my heart at a very young age that I didn't want to, the Christianese would be sin against the Lord, but I purposed in my heart that I didn't want to deviate from his plan in any way, shape, or form, because I knew that his plan for my life, and I still believe this so strongly, is to be great. I can't help but believe that God has great things for me. And so I didn't want to mess that up. I didn't want to have my hands on it. I didn't want to, so whenever those opportunities came, yes, they were enticing, but it just came down to the way that I felt in my gut it was not right. And being so close to the Lord at a young age really helped me with that, because I had the vision burned in my heart so strong of where I wanted to go. I always desired to speak. I always desired to tell young girls not to give up. I always desired at a young age to pour into them and say, you have more to do. You don't have to. My firm belief in a nutshell is that God's given us gifts and we don't have to prostitute them. And I think that the choices were hard in the moment, but the reward and the harvest from it has been insane.
Encouraging. Because listen, I'll be honest, I was reading about you and it was fascinating because they're like, here she was, she had this career, there was a really great opportunities, and then she disappeared. Like people literally said, then you left, then you disappeared, right?
Yeah.
And the sense of some of the writings of like, about you have been like, why would she it's almost like, why would she do that? She just gave up fame and fortune and popularity and probably great boyfriends that are famous. You know what I'm saying? Why would she do that? And what you're saying is it's because you know that you want, here's the plan.
Yeah.
And I think that, who you are and whose you are is important in that too.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of young women are losing that. I think you're right. They are prostituting their morals and beliefs and character on really for the sake of fame and money. For just a moment.
A moment, yeah.
Right? That's it. It's just like for a moment. How do we get away from that? Because I find that culture and society are all about the moment.
Yes. And
The now.
gratification.
The gratification. And yet we're losing that, wait a second. There's a long game here possibly. There is a bigger purpose.
Yes.
How do we recalibrate and change that thinking from a now perspective to like a plan? Yeah.
I think that, I always think of that verse, narrow is the way and there are few who find it. And for me, it's just making God's voice bigger for me than the voices that I'm hearing, because I've been told the craziest things. You'll never work again, for real. Like that cliche thing.
Yeah.
I've been told that in a mall, like slid down the wall crying.
Really?
Because you'll never work again. And Madeline, I really think that you need to consider if you still want to pursue acting, because if you want to pursue acting, then you have to do nudity. You have to. And that's what it is now. Like I've been told those things, and just it was one of those things where it's like, am I gonna believe that? Am I gonna receive that? Or am I gonna believe that God still is who He says He is? And that's what it's been for me. What do you think?
Yeah, I was talking
choices, yeah.
this morning. I always go back to the biblical examples, finding your stories in the Word that you can take that inspiration from. And I was reading Hebrews. I was actually reading it to her this morning. And Hebrews 11 has the hall of faith, all these great men and women of God and what they did. And I zoned in specifically. The Lord was just showing me recently out of Hebrews 11 and about 24, 25, it talks about Moses. And it said Moses chose to be, the esteem of the reproach of Christ greater than the riches of Egypt, and the pleasures of sin, which we know is only for a season. And so it explains how he made that choice. But at the very end of verse 25, it tells you how he did it. And it said he looked to the reward. And I love his example because he had the power, he had the money, he had the popularity, he had everything. He wasn't trying to get it. He had it. And he chose because he looked to an unseen reward. He had an eternal perspective. And like Madeline was saying, when you know that God has got a plan for you, And he is, I love Hebrews 11:6. He said, when you come to God, you must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those that diligently seek him. And his reward is great. And it's knowing that, God, if I am saying no to this because you're leading me, then what you have for me is greater than this passing moment. You know,
and it's painful. Probably for you, it's you know, your reputation, what's being said in Hollywood about you. Are you ever going to work again? Like, I think those are real questions you had.
100%. You know, just that oh, she's a prude, or oh, she's not going to do this thing, so we're not going to bother sending her out on this thing that I actually could do, because they're going to give it to the girl that wanted to do like more things. And so that was hard, but just really standing and believing that, like, God, I think that this is what you're saying. I think that this is what you're going to do. And then lo and behold, when I Can Only Imagine came out, it was the highest grossing indie movie of 2018.
That's
unexplainable.
Crazy. I know.
Like,
it's
God,
so crazy.
completely, like, it's insane.
Isn't it almost like a moment you're like, yeah. So I'm not being like, yeah.
But that's like how God does things.
Yes, like now do you see? That's what I felt like. Now do you see? You know? And
that's
then
good.
he brought the 10-year-old dreams of my heart to fruition.
And sometimes it's just timing and patience. Sometimes you may never see it until you die. I mean, I don't want to be so, but you know what I mean?
Well,
you might not
that's
see
what happened
exactly.
with Moses.
Exactly.
I mean,
you might not see it until.
You might not see it,
but there's also the thing that even in a lot of the poor choices I made when I was growing up, you know, there are moments when you make that mistake, those things sear you. And when I say sear, they sear your soul and they break you. And I tell women that, like, you may say, oh, it was fun, or it doesn't matter, those decisions. They do matter.
It stays with you,
Because years later, I have, you know, processed it. I've gone to some good therapists. I have been on my knees for forgiveness. But you still remember. You are forgiven, but there's still those moments, and in all honesty, that's still, because of the decision. And knowing, though, that in my free will and choice, I could have chosen not to, or chosen the better way. And now when I talk to young women, I'm like, choose the better way.
Yeah. When the scripture says there's no temptation that you're going to come, that God will make a way of escape.
There will always be a way. You can say no.
You can say no.
And you can be laughed at, and that's a hard thing, but at the end of the day, you still stand at who you are, and that you are God's, and he is for you.
Yeah.
The whole world could be against you.
But if he's for you.
But I
He's
want
for
to
you.
encourage the people who are maybe feel like they're in those bad choices right now, and they're still making those bad choices, that Romans 8:28, God makes all things work together for good.
He does.
So the choices that you may have made then, you're using to bless people now. And it's like the platform. I look at it, there's this thing, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with them, but apple boxes that you stand on. And I feel like every bad thing that happens, it's like God's giving you another apple box to stand on so you can reach more people and get your voice out to more people. And I just think that that's a beautiful thing, that God does that for us. So we don't have to be condemned.
Go ahead, I didn't mean to stop you, but let me add this. And your choices affect so many other people's lives. Her choice to wait on Imagine, and how God, when she flew through to promote Imagine at 700 Club, is when I came over to meet her, and we had this whole, her calling Broad Street. And so now the publishing of Beauty Inside Out, which God has sent all over, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, it's going all over the place. I never would have done that had it not been for that divine moment, but it trickled down from, you know, it was because she was promoting Imagine. And so now every person that reads that book, that gets ministered to, she has a reward in that, because she had do you know what I'm saying? That ripple effect is just one small thing. Never mind the lives that are being affected by the movie itself, the people that are coming. It's just amazing. The right choice has a continual, a recompense is the word. It's just a reward. Yes.
Good word.
That is a good word.
Bessie Hicks, Madeline Carroll, thank you so much. It was great girlfriend conversation.
Love it.
I love meeting new women and being encouraged, and we're cheering you on. We're excited for you and your next stage and with the book. And so thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for having us.
I loved it. We can high five now.
High five! That was so good. You guys are so good. We need a little picture.